Welcome to Matters Financial and Geopolitical from a Frontier, and thank you for stopping by. Let's go to Sub-Saharan Africa. Look at this Bloomberg lead with the headline, Africa Rising. That took me back to 2014 when I was at the IMF conference in Maputo, and the theme of that was Africa Rising. And of course, we know what happened to Maputo subsequently. So this is a photograph to Africa Rising, 6 of the 10 fastest growing economies. And the poster from that conference in Mozambique. In the lead up to Madagascar's 2018 presidential elections, teams of Russian tourists and observers were spotted on the island. Who were these Russians? What were they doing in the country? Who was backing them? Asks BBC Africa. Click on that, there's a thread. It's a fascinating story. And really, President Putin is now playing offense in Africa. They've also, Zimbabwe and Russia signed a $4 billion platinum mine deal as well. The mine would be built on one of the largest platinum mining concessions in the country. Afreximbank may raise $2 billion to finance building the mine and a smelter at the project. They're on the hook big in Zimbabwe. They've been probably the Linda of last resort. Ambassador John Bolton tweeted, pleased to have hosted the Somali Prime Minister Hassan Khairi today, congratulated him on Somalia's economic reforms, urged sustained engagement on this front, discussed ways to deepen the strong US-Somalia partnership on critical issues including counter-terrorism and regional stability. Rashid Abdi says, I'm told the focus is not just traditional counter-terrorism, but renewed bid by the US to rearrange the Red Sea, Gulf of Aden littoral states to counter China and Russia. So that's interesting, and it really has heated up in that Horn of Africa, Red Sea, Bab el-Mandeb area, hasn't it? It's become a geopolitical hotspot, just as the center of economic gravity has moved into the Indian Ocean, as it were. Tanzania's economy will expand at 4% this year, then accelerate slightly to 4.2% next year from an estimated 6.6% in 2018. And I've written about this previously. I called it a President John Pombe Magufuli haircut because we got stale cashew nuts. We've dropped a couple of $100 million just in that cashew nut issue. And this is significant. This is first evidence that Magufulianomics is going to exact a heavy price out of the Tanzanian GDP growth. Dar es Salaam in Tanzania is the second fastest growing city worldwide. Its planners are struggling to keep up. A great article in Nat Geo. A city of 6 million on the Indian Ocean is expected to have 10 million within a decade, and according to one scenario, could have more than 70 million by 2100. He follows a guy who's at 20, made the 800-mile journey on the back of a truck, stayed with a friend until he could find work, and eventually started his own business, a small stand selling French fries known as chips, on the outskirts of Tandale, one of the city's largest informal settlements. Lovely story there. According to UN projections, the continent will have 18 cities with more than 5 million people by 2030, up from 8 in 2018. Today, 21 of the world's 30 fastest growing cities, including the top 10, are African. Kampala ranks first. According to government statistics, Tanzania, a population of 60 million, had just 2.6 million formal jobs in 2016. So there's a big issue around that as well. Have a read. This is a lovely photograph of passengers disembarking in the Kivukoni neighborhood of Dar es Salaam after crossing an inlet of the Indian Ocean on the ferry from Kigamboni. In Zimbabwe, the RTGS traded at a record low of 3.1383 to the dollar on the interbank market on Wednesday, but this is a completely false market. They're selling the equivalent of about $10 or something equally small. So it's really an inefficient, the price is not being discovered. They're scared of price discovery. Black market is at 4.36. I take you back to something I wrote where I said it's the right move to overhaul the dysfunctional and whack and even voodoo FX regime. But really the correct price is, as Tindai Bitty said, between 6 and 8. And 2.5, which is where they started, was really Hail Mary economics, in my view. Africa's Amazon Jumia is set for a New York NYSE IPO. It's active in 14 African countries. It's an online retailer. More than 4 million customers in the 7 years since the company was founded. That number jumped 48% last year. Planning to sell 13.5 million ADRs at between $13 and $16, raising as much as $216 million. Less than 1% of retail sales in Jumia's African footprint are conducted online, compared with nearly 24% in China. Reported a loss of 170 million euros, has warned prospective investors that it has accumulated losses of 862 million euros since its inception. If an online retailer develops a name and offers a good consumer experience, people feel safer to use it. For the IPO to be successful, investors will have to see Jumia as a chance to play in Africa with less risk. Buenos Aires-based e-commerce firm Mercado Libre Inc. had a similar profile. Company largely beat Amazon to the punch in emerging markets, using a New York share sale in 2007 to expand in Latin America, offering shares at $18 each. Stock now trades at above $500, so there you go. January last year, I said e-commerce and home-based deliveries have changed the world from London to China, and that I'm certain the same disruption is headed our way. South African all shares having a strong year. That's up 10.76% this year. Dollar rand, that strengthened below 14 to 13.93. I think Moody comments helped. They are giving Ramaphosa the benefit of the doubt about his reforms, saying we'll wait until after the elections. Egyptian pound 17.3293, that's been a really strong currency. You remember when it got to 19, I said it's a big buy, it still is. Egyptian stock market, best in Africa, up 15.89% year to date. Nigeria down 7.09%, that's a thumbs down to Baba Go Slow economics. Ghana will be the fastest growing economy in the world this year, according to the IMF, forecast at 8.8%. However, Neville Mandimika, an analyst at First Round, said it's just IMF are being way too generous. Ghana Stock Exchange is down 3.5% so far this year.